This is Tommy's Outdoors, episode 13. And I think stars are aligned because episode 13 goes live on the 13th of June. So, anyway, in this episode, my guest is David Elton. And that means that the episode is very much about cycling. On episode 4, my guest was Donnacha Clifford, who was one of the co-authors of the Cycling Kerry guidebook. And David Elton, who is my guest today, is another author of that Kerry cycling guidebook. So essentially, the boys wrote that book together. But the podcast is not about the book, really. The podcast is about cycling. And boy, if you talk about hardcore cyclist, that's David Elton. So we're talking about a variety of things. We're talking about the cycling culture in Holland. We are talking about cycling Scandinavia. We're talking about using bicycle as a means of transport because David doesn't use car. He doesn't drive car. Okay, he can drive car if he needs. But on the day-to-day, as a choice, he's using bicycle, even for doing shopping and stuff like that. So it is possible. And we talk about cycling Mallorca and all those big classic climbs in Mallorca, and many other topics related to cycling. And obviously, if you're interested in cycling, and especially Cycling Kerry, what you need to do is you need to go to kerrycyclingguidebook.com. That's kerrycyclingguidebook.com, one word, where you can go ahead and purchase Kerry Cycling Guidebook, written by Donnacha and David. It's a great book. You have maps, details about the routes, like our American friends would say, and also pictures. And that guidebook is not only focused on this is elevation and this is number of kilometers on the route, but it's not only that. There are also pictures and a little bit of the history and a little bit of a kind of stop and look around and see what interesting stuff is around and what you can you can learn about Kerry essentially while cycling. So it's a really great book, kerrycyclingguidebook.com. Go ahead, purchase that book. And yes, and also don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, whatever you listen to your podcasts. Rate, leave the review. That's a great help. And now, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, David Elton. Okay, with me today, Dave Elton, famous and Kerry cyclist. Dave, maybe go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thanks, Tommy. My name's Dave Elton. I've been living here in Kerry now, I'd say, for around 22, 23 years. Okay. Originally, I was born in Liverpool. I was kind of brought up between Liverpool and Manchester in a town called Warrington. Then I lived in London for about 4 years. I had a year in Dublin. I had another 4 years then in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And then in around 95, I moved to Tralee.
Okay.
So the rest is history.
Great.
From the cycling perspective, I kind of got into that around 2010. So it's that about just 8 years, really.
So you've been already in Tralee by the time?
I have, yeah.
All right, because my first thought when you mentioned Holland is like, Holland is a big cycling culture.
Yeah.
And like almost everybody is cycling, I feel like, in Holland. So that was like, oh, did you get the cycling bug there?
I kind of got the cycling bug probably around the age of 8.
Right.
The first bike, I kind of got was, probably one of the best birthday presents ever. It was a rally chopper. I don't know if you ever come across one of those.
I think I know.
Absolutely.
This is the one with the long seat and stuff.
Yeah. It's absolutely, fantastic bike. Pretty heavy, cumbersome, but for the around 1972 when I got it, it was state of the art stuff, and really it was a bike come motorbike come car all in one. If you're gonna for an 8-year-old's imagination, absolutely fabulous. So it's like a sky blue, huge seat on it, like you could fit a small family on it nearly. Big kind of like Harley Davidson type of handlebars, and then it had a gear lever there in front of you. So
it had a gear lever. All right.
So it was 3 gears, and it was kind of marked as well. So it was like a little sports car gear lever, and kind of got that, and it sort of give you a bit of freedom. You'd be cycling to school, you'd be kind of exploring the village and a little bit beyond.
That's very interesting because it's like it really resonated with the mind of the young kid. Like, I got this device now that I can move around and do stuff.
It really did. It give you free. For I was about 8 or 9, and back then it was there wasn't the big deal about kind of cycling to school. It was. Wasn't quite as much traffic on the road. Plus, for me, it was only about a mile or 2 to school, and there was about 3 or 4 ways you could go. So you'd always find a quiet road, and you go weekends or in the summer. You go out and explore local estates and that type of thing on it. So that's kind of, I'd say that's kind of where the sort of cycling bug come from.
Right.
But since then I've kind of been sort of in and out. A lot of it's been, how would you say, a bit more kind of like fantasy, kind of thinking.
Got it.
I'd like to do this, but, it didn't always kind of come off. So, the serious, the club cycling kind of thing only come there about 8 years ago. As for Holland, I did have a bike there. Literally the day I got there, I made sure I got a bike.
Yeah, of course. That's the first thing, right?
Everybody has a bike in Holland. You're kind of the odd one out, and like that. It's all you need. There's such a vast network of cycling lanes there. You can cycle anywhere nearly without going on a road.
Exactly. The infrastructure is just tremendous.
It's kind of, it's light years ahead of a lot of, most European countries, in fairness. And like that, you wouldn't need didn't need a car over there. The transport system so good. We lived in a town called Haarlem.
Okay.
And which is kind of between Amsterdam and Zandvoort, which is the on the coast, and there's a train about every 10 minutes to Amsterdam. It was brilliant buses, so fantastic infrastructure. But the bike side of it was just more from getting you from A to B. B sometimes
purely utilitarian
to work. Sometimes B was the pub,
of course,
that type of thing. So it's purely like practical, and the leisure side of it, sometimes come in at weekends, but it wasn't cycling as what we do with the chain.
Were you paying attention then to the cyclists, like a sport cyclist, it's called, guys in Lycra in Holland?
In Holland,
yeah. Or they were like completely something that you were...
No, you to be honest, they're, they're few and far between. They're kind of, so they're like an underground type of cycling. They're not noticeable at all.
Yeah.
I was in Holland about 5 years ago, and I got a loan of a bike, a race bike. And so I went out and plotted a route and did about 100 kilometres, and I actually found it quite hard cycling there. It's so flat. There's no there's no hiding places. The fields are very open. There's not much hedge.
Yes.
So any bit of wind, you know, just a small 10, 15 kilometer per hour wind, you know, it's full on.
Yes. Yes.
And,
I remember, was it last year or 2 years ago where Tour de France was it started in Holland, or it was like
probably Rotterdam or something like that.
And it was like these, you know, everybody said like, okay, I have only one word for it, echelons, because of the wind, and everybody knew what's going to be happening.
It's you know, it's a lot harder than, you know, these people that say, you know, I'd love to be cycling on flat roads all the time. And say, you know, go to Holland, you soon change your mind. Yeah. You know, kind of cycling here in Kerry, you got the hills and the windy roads. And the rolling country there. You know, I think it's actually a lot. It's a lot easier. You know. Yeah. So yeah, I
think it's more interesting as well, because something is happening. Well, when you cycle like a flat road all the time,
it is. It's, you know,
it's kind of boring.
You know, the terrain there is, you know, it's very similar. You know, especially where we were, sort of in the north of Holland, you know, fields, polders, dikes, that type of thing. And, you know, it only really kind of peps up a bit when you know, hit a town or a village. You know, there's a bit more to look at, you know, building wise. But it's, you know, it's a nice country, but, you know, say for cycling long distances it's could end up being quite boring.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know, so that, you know, that's what most people kind of, you know, they use the bikes for. And, you know, the bikes that they cycle are, you know, they're not really designed for, you know, well, what most people cycle anyway. You know, they're really designed for huge distances.
Yeah, they're short distance and comfort.
You know, 10, 15 kilometers, something, you know, just to work or back, you know, just to ferry the kids to the kindergarten, that type of thing, you know. But it is a nice, you know, it's a nice way that they sort of do things over there, you know.
Yeah, I remember one thing from Holland. You know, I was going to Holland for 3 or 4 years in a row with my friend, and we went to get the bike, like from the shop where you can rent the bike, and there was a guy who was renting those bikes, and he was covered with tattoos of bikes. He actually had the entire body tattooed in, you know, various types of bikes. So we got our bike, and my friend said, "Did you see this guy? He's all tattooed in bikes."
So
the big cycling culture.
But there's not, Christ, I say, there's not too many people that live there that haven't got a bike. You know, it's. It's huge over there. Yeah. And you know, if you know, for the unsuspecting person going there, you go to Amsterdam, you know, you're on a footpath and you're trying to cross the road, you got to watch for bikes, trams, cars, trams, bikes.
You gotta be careful.
They're flying everywhere. Like, you know,
you gotta be careful. That's true. No, it's a big cycling culture. So you're also involved in a cycling club here in Kerry, which I'm a member of, but just by the way. But I let you to say something.
I'd say you're more into fishing, are you? Anyway, so anyway, the chain gang. I kind of joined the chain gang there about 8 years ago now. I think it was in 2010. Kind of quite. A bit of trepidation, joint. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people don't kind of, you know, take that into account. It's, you know, you kind of used to doing your own bit, cycling on your own, and then you think, you know, kind of probably need a little bit more here. Yeah. And so I must have been looking at the website for about 3 weeks. Yeah. Thinking, shall I make this jump? And so you know, eventually, you know, sent out a request or an email, and I think back then they used to kind of start cycling in March, kind of finish up in I don't know, October or something like that. So I kind of got them on pretty much the first cycle. Yeah, and it was just handy enough spin out to. Fareham for Castle Island and back, you know, so I thought, yeah, you know, it's nice. There was probably about 10 or so on it, great. The next week then I kind of turned up. It was a bit of a cold, frosty morning, and there's a completely different crowd there. And, you know, didn't really know of them, so, you know, they was saying, I think we'll head to Dingle. I was going, oh my God. So, all right, so where are the other ones? He said, yeah, because it's a bit frosty, they'll let the sun kind of do its work, and they're coming out around 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So I thought, all right. So he said, hey, you'll be okay, come with us, So basically, what I'd fallen in with was what they call the tappers, the fast crowd. So you had some of these fellas were kind of training for, a couple of them were training for an Ironman, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So they were heading out to Dingle over the Connor Pass, which I'd never done before. And I remember going out just literally hanging on for dear life at the back of the group. And once they hit the Connor Pass, I was nearly standing still. The others just disappeared.
Just for our listeners, Connor Pass is the highest road pass in Ireland.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a category 3 climb, I think, or 2. Maybe it's even category 2 climb.
It's only about 5 kilometers, but it's especially if you've not done it before, it's kind of hard work.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
And as well, like you're going with them, you're being pulled along at a speed you're not used to, and then you're thinking about this kind of pass. There's times I nearly felt physically sick going out there, pretty worried. But, in the end, I was kind of quite happy. I kind of got up there, I remember, but there was, 1 or 2 bits of it there where there was actually ice on there. I remember the back wheel spinning, there's a part of it in the second part where you've got kind of rocks overhanging and there's icicles coming down, and there's kind of ice on the road.
The descent must have been quite dangerous if the road was icy.
Well, it was only icy in parts, that were in shade.
Okay. Okay.
So, like if the descent there into Dingle, it's about 7 kilometers, and it's kind of quite open. And
that one. There won't be shadow on that side.
There's the sun would have got at it, and it's a nice kind of. It's not really quite as technical as going up.
Yeah.
So, fair play to them. They waited for me at the top. Got down. I had a well-deserved break at Dingle.
You gotta say that those spins are very friendly, and the people are not. I tell 2 things about Chain Gang Club. First of all, what a cool name, Chain Gang. Very cool name. So that's the one thing. And secondly, it was new to me to cycle in a group. So first of all, I had to overcome the fear of actually other cyclists being so close in front of me, or in the you're like, this is really I need to get used to that. But then that sense of sort of camaraderie that you're cycling together, and I was in a probably everybody was in a situation where it's hanging off the back of a group. It's like, hey guys, no, you leave me here, and one of the guys turns and says like, no, it's like Vietnam, we're not leaving anyone behind. So
that's true. The name. It's not from the prison, the chain gang, the American prison chain gangs. I think it's more from the fact that when you are cycling together, it kind of mimics a chain.
Yeah, it's like a formation. How you're changing turns on the top.
The ones on the left would be, I suppose, practically static, and moving backwards, and the ones on the right then would be coming along the outside, and it just forms that chain.
So the purpose is that the guy who is up front does the most work, and the other kind of drafting behind him, and then that guy gets worn out a little bit, so that the next gives him a change and have a more power, and the other one kind of rests, so that way the whole group moves faster than individual cyclists, because they kind of supporting each other. That was another thing. I was absolutely blown away how much easier it is. Now when I'm saying it just sounds stupid, but until I tried, I have no idea how much easier it is to cycle behind somebody.
Oh yeah,
it's like 30-40%.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I read that somewhere as well. Yeah, it is around 30%. The 2 people at the front will be putting in about 30% more effort than the ones at the back. Obviously, the further back you go, probably the easier it goes. Although I've got a theory. I kind of find it quite hard at the back as well, because what tends to happen when you're at the back, you relax, and then there's
the group goes away.
Yeah, there's a thing called like an elastic effect. So you relax and the group pulls away, and then you've got a sprint to get back onto them. Yeah. So really, in a group of 10, the best place is probably around 3 back in the middle. You're nice and comfy. And,
you're comfortable. You're not relaxing too much, but you're not working too much either.
Yeah, and you've got that effect there where you're being drafted nicely, and if you're in a good group and you're tight and compact, sometimes you're not far off kind of freewheeling in that group.
And that's the same reason why in bike racing the peloton can catch the people who are escaping, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because the group of cyclists will cycle faster for that reason.
The share in the the workload. Like that. You got a guy goes off on his own. That's it. He's on his own. He's putting all his own power and energy, and literally he's taking on 50 or 100 guys.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Generally they got to build up a huge lead if they're gonna pull something off.
Yeah. So, that whole tactics comes in. So anyway, if any one of your listeners are in the Tralee area, Chain Gang Club, Cycling Club, just Google that. There's a website, and I think that it's open, right? Everybody can join who wants, or is it number
absolutely.
of places limited?
No, at the moment now we've just passed about 160 members.
Wow.
It's kind of open now. We've just finished like a kind of a mentoring program, which is kind of for beginners. Where we kind of sort of build them up from, say about a 20-kilometer ride, finishing with the 50, and then kind of they would then be sort of dovetailed into the club. The way the club's kind of sort of divided is that we've got say 4 groups. So we call it the 22 group, which would be the kindest group. And then the 25, the 27, 29, 30 plus. So there's 5 groups actually. And what the numbers kind of mean really is pretty much the average speed of each group. Would be doing. So like the 25 would be doing pretty much an average speed of about 25. So if there's anybody who feels that they're not quite a beginner,
right? Hesitates.
Hesitates. They can, do a few kilometers, and they like a bash. Then why not?
So that's the idea of the mentoring program. So get the people who are not quite decided, maybe a little bit hesitant, like I don't know whether it's gonna. Is that the purpose, or is it like people who are not in shape and they never cycled, or they cycled last time, like 50 years ago?
It's a bit of both. It's a nice introduction, if you're a little bit nervous about what might be ahead if you join the club as a whole. Right. So for example, the first cycle that we did on the mentoring was just out to Blennerville. We took in a few back roads there around Tralee and the cycle pass, the canal, that type of thing. We had a break there in Blennerville there at the garage,
Sure.
And so it's a nice introduction. Then we just kind of built it up. Then over the 6 weeks to the final spin was out to Listowel.
Okay.
Which was about just over 50 kilometers. So that's a nice milestone as well. For someone who's never really done cycling before, cycle 50 kilometers. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
and and also as well, you'd have a few people who have got little goals in mind. Say for example to cycle a ring of Kerry. So it's it's an ideal kind of start, and it's something that the club has nearly always done. It's really since it started, it's had some kind of a mentoring program, and initially it's the reason that the club started was they were most of the original members were climbing. They're into climbing. The local mountains, and the foot and mouth outbreak. I think it was, I don't know, about 15, maybe even 20 years ago. I can't quite remember now. But, they weren't allowed to go out onto the mountains. So,
Why?
In case they carried the disease, over the, it was just a kind of an emergency law that was kind of put in place. People weren't, allowed to go, out into those sort of green areas, until, they got on top of the virus.
Okay.
So rather than, sit around the house, there's one or two of them were actually, done a bit of cycling in the past. So, they decided to dust down their own mountain bikes, whatever bikes they had in the shed, and, go out cycling instead of walking. And that's pretty much how it started. And then, someone had a goal in mind, said, let's train for the Ring of Kerry. And like that, the rest is history.
Yeah. Listen, so... one other thing, maybe I'm gonna come back to Holland for a short moment, and the point that you made about like everybody have a bike and they're like a massive. So we almost got that impression that you're going to the shop, you leave your bike in front of a shop, you go about, do your shopping, and you come back and you take first bike that's there because your bike is probably gone anyway, and you just take the first that's just close to you, and you go that. So we had that. Did you get that there's a lot of this kind of unofficial swapping of the bikes going on there, because there's like so much, and some of them are just dirty old bikes.
Not really. You might get that impression sort of from the outside, but let's say, everyone has their own special bike and that type of thing. And actually, a lot of them, a lot of the bikes, they got these kind of like nifty locks. Here, like, people would be carrying, say, chains or, those, those long kind of locks with, say a padlock on or something like that. Yeah. Over there, they have these lovely little locks. It kind of fits just above the back wheel.
Yeah, they're kind of built into the bike.
It's built in, and then you sort of twist a key, and these two kind of shutters come down and around the underneath of the wheel.
Yeah,
so
and lock it.
So it kind of locks it. So if anyone jumps on these two things, will kind of hit the spokes, and they won't be able to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
but there was like a bigger town where you were. Where we were in a near the town called Avenhorn. It's I think it's in the south of. It was quite a distance from the Amsterdam.
We're near Belgium, around there, was it?
Yeah, I think. I think so. There was...
Actually, Dutch humour. The place is pretty flat, but there's one area there, kind of down by it'd be sort of sandwiched between Germany and Belgium. It's called Limburg, and sarcastically they call that the Dutch Alps. It's kind of it's a kind of like a rolling terrain,
Yeah.
It's about the only area of Holland, with a few hills, like, So that's the Dutch Alps, Limburg. It'd be kind of Maastricht would probably be the main town.
Yes.
Well, but like that, there is a lot of bike theft there, that type of thing. Actually, a funny story. We were in Maastricht once, and it was kind of with my parents and my wife Liz, and I remember we were kind of walking across this bridge, it's crosses over I think the River Maas, which is a big river there, and there's this guy coming the other way, like you could hear him shouting and screaming, and he kind of had this bike, and I'd say the bike was clicking, and it just wasn't doing what he wanted it to. So you look and think, has he nicked this bike anyway? He completely lost it. Just picked the bike up and just threw it over the bridge and into the water. I remember my dad looking at it, absolutely stunned, like.
Oh god!
So that was. Possibly a theft that didn't go quite to plan. Like,
Yeah, it could be. It could be very well. All right, so we spoke about Chain Gang Club. there's one thing that really, one of the two things I really want to talk to you about. You've done the amazing cycle through the whole height or length of Ireland. So it was
Mizzen to Malin, yeah.
Mizzen to Malin. Tell us about a little bit about that, because is that like a almost, in a small Irish scale, like a kind of cannonball run, right? For the length of, maybe not the continent, but the length of the Ireland. Is that like a classic cycling challenge, or is it like? Tell me a little bit about
like we're coming from England. The big one over there is Land's End to John O'Groats, and so I suppose Mizzen to Malin is the equivalent. No, it wouldn't probably only be less than half that distance, but could be wrong here. But I think it's it's the most southern and most northern point. So
yes,
from north to south, probably not the furthest two distances possibly in Ireland, but it's from the most southern to northern point. So in that it's it's a challenge there for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you got a good few people who.
How many kilometers is it? Like 500 kilometers?
Trying to think. In all money, it's roughly somewhere in the region of about 400 miles.
400 miles. Yeah. Okay, so it's much more.
In and around 400 miles.
Right.
Remember when we did it? We roughly did somewhere in the region of about 100 miles a day.
100 miles a day.
Say 150 kilometers a day roughly.
Yeah.
So what's that? About 6.
Yeah. But was that something that you guys come up with to do that, or was it like if you're, I don't know, Google like a cycling challenges in Ireland, you will see like, okay, this is what people were doing, years and years, and you guys said like, yeah, we're gonna do that too? Or was it like you actually genuinely come up with the idea?
No, we didn't come up with the idea. So there was it's quite a popular kind of cycle to do. There was there was a few. Actually, I think when I first got into cycling, I remember I think Corro Cycling Club doing it. Mm-hmm. That was about eight years ago.
Okay.
There was I think there was 3 guys from the chain gang did it about 2 or 3 years ago.
So any cycling enthusiast in Ireland knows about
this. It's just a challenge. It's from the most southern to the most northern, or vice versa. Thing to do.
And that took you 4 days to do.
Yeah, we did it over 4 days. So kind of like day one, we kind of went from Mizzen to Tralee. Mm-hmm. So kind of up through Cork into Kerry. So it was handy there. You could stay at home for the first day. The second day, then we went from Tralee to Tuam, which is kind of not too far from Galway.
Yes.
So
that's a big distance.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was probably one of the longest days. Yeah. That was. I think if I remember right, that was somewhere in the region about 180 kilometers. Day.
I was going to say. I was going to say that there was close to 200.
Although we cheated a little bit and got the ferry at Tarvet, but. So that
is that the part of the original challenge, or you have to go through Limerick to be like 100%?
I don't think there's any
guidelines.
There's any right or wrong way of doing it.
Okay. There's no
actually, if you were to plot the shortest, there's different way, especially with the Wild Atlantic Way on board now. You could do it by following the coast, and that could run into over 1,000 kilometers if you so wish. But I think actually the shortest way would nearly take you through the Midlands, Limerick, the Midlands, and then you'd sort of peel off.
Okay.
So we probably went a little bit longer than
sure.
So
in other words, there is no established route that you have to do that. So to be kind of in the books, it's like a point to point, and it's up to you what you're gonna do, how you're gonna get there. Yeah. Okay.
So so that was day 2. We cycled to Tuam, but day 3 then was probably the day I probably found the hardest. It was the, like day one, there was the excitement of leaving. Day two, you were leaving Tralee. Day three was like the kind of the quiet day. It was, the nondescript day. And, I kind of found that quite hard. It was, there's varying terrain. I think we cycled through about 6 counties that day as well.
Was it like that the monotony kicked in?
Yeah,
it's like a third day in the row. Distance is kind of long, and you're just kind of grinding it through.
The reality of it kind of starts clicking, and all the excitement was kind of gone, and I think this is for real now. And I remember it was a Sunday, and there wasn't much happening. It was quiet, and also as well, well, for me, I wouldn't quite call it going outside the comfort zone, but he's kind of moving into areas of Ireland I've not been in before. I think prior to that, the furthest north I've been was Mayo. So you move into a place like Sligo, and then you a little hop and a skip through Leitrim, and then you're going into Donegal, and. Remember, really from Donegal, the border with Leitrim and Donegal up to Donegal town where we stayed the third night. That was kind of quite tough. The miles of kilometres were sort of starting to feel in the legs, and there's this big kind of main road that's just a slow drag, going up, and you think it's never going to end. And remember, we were looking for somewhere to stop and to get, something to eat and drink, and it just wasn't there.
This wasn't there.
And so that was tough. But we got to Donegal, and actually a very, very nice town there, Donegal town. And then like that, you've got the excitement then for the final day.
Yeah,
and,
that's it. We don't have to do it anymore.
Getting to the top, and actually, when the last bit is arguably, if going by hills, is probably one of the hardest. The last kilometre is there's a real steep kick to it. It kind of really catches you. So if you're not ready for it, you could end up pushing the bike.
Because it's like an over 100 kilometers cycle every day, 4 days in a row. So
more.
Like 200, almost 200 kilometers on a day two, like you said.
Yeah, about 100 on average. It's roughly about 150 kilometers every day.
Yeah.
So,
but the compounding effect of that's what you feel, really.
Yeah. But I think the key to it is to it's not a race. Kind of take your time, there was I think there was 6 of us doing it. So
I was going to ask
kind of
6. Okay.
Like you're helping each other out, and you can work a little bit as a group at times, or just have a little bit of me time as well. Sometimes you need, I felt that sometimes it's just nice to sit off at the back of the group and have half an hour to yourself. It's kind of getting, times it's getting like that, and then you could, mix in again, have a chat and a bit of crack, and a few stops, which is well needed. Lunch, ice creams, that type of thing. Keep you fueled up.
Very good.
It was, for something there. We've been planning for a good while. It's actually quite nondescript. It was. I
was gonna ask that. Like, how you guys gonna? Did you just like one day say like, oh, let's do this cycle, or was it like a more methodical planning, and you just sat down and kind of with a map and this is the road we're gonna take? We're gonna
kind of been on the back burner for probably 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
yeah.
So you had an idea and you parked it.
After I'd say after 2 or 3 years in the chain gang, I kind of got a little bit into long distance cycling. Audax cycling, which would be you'd cycle say 200-300 kilometre cycles in the one day, and one of the members there, Aileen, was the one that I did a few of them those cycles with. So, it was kind of her idea a few times. So, we'll have a crack at this. So, how it kind of come about was, it was a kind of a special birthday for her last year. So that was a birthday gig, cycling Mizzen to Malin.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, I think the Aileen kind of did the route, possibly I think someone else, Humphrey, another guy, he had a hand in it as well.
Okay.
And they kind of, I think, they planned it so well. They knew exactly where they were going.
Right.
So, absolutely everything just went to plan. Normally if you do these sort of things, standout things is, if something goes wrong, you get lost or, something like that. And, that just didn't happen. So, it was just something, we started and we finished and pretty much everything went to plan. I think on the whole cycle, we one puncher.
Oh.
That was it.
Oh,
that I think that was, that was because, someone either didn't call a pothole or something, or they weren't looking, just went straight, someone went straight into it. And so, one puncher for the whole thing. That was probably one of the most eventful things that happened.
Yeah.
So, it was...
so outside of the preparation of the road, of the route, you guys didn't do any other preparation? Or?
Well, like that, you had to sort of prepare, as to where you were staying.
Yeah.
Now that the first, we went the night before, so we stayed somewhere near the start in Cork. It's only about 2 kilometers from the start, so that had to be booked, and then we had to book somewhere in Tuam, which wasn't easy. There was too many hotels there. So we did finally get somewhere then. For the final couple of, we had 2 nights then in Donegal, so we got there, cycled. We had somebody was in a car, carrying the baggage for us, in case anyone got into trouble.
Okay.
And then there was another guy kind of come up as well.
So you had a support car.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a support car. Initially,
it doesn't sound like the cheating. Like
no one actually. No one actually jumped in the support car to get.
No, I mean that's a sensible thing. Honestly, this is a sensible thing to have a support car.
But I think there's probably 2 or 3 of us would have tackled it without a support car. We'd have kind of carried our own stuff if we'd have had to.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask that. Did you guys have a backpacks with your stuff? That was obviously probably going in the support car.
Yeah, no, just like just a hodl or something like that.
Yeah.
Just with say a couple of changes of cycling clothes, and then a couple of clothes to do you for the night. Night out and that type.
I suppose that's a most important thing, the clothes, because when I was thinking about it, like I don't know about you, but like I have most of the things with me on the bike, like 2 spare tubes and a basic tools. These days these tools are so small and compact that you can basically service entire bike with that. So the clothes is probably the biggest thing. Especially if somebody is sweating a lot, then you kind of need a change. So you would either need to carry a backpack, which makes it more difficult to cycle with a backpack. So having all that stuff in the car is big help. And since you have a car, you also probably can take spare chain in case something's happened, and wheel or
spare wheel, like that chain, just kind of spare parts. And to be honest, a lot of it ended up being unnecessary, because it could have happened.
6 people, one puncture, and a big this, and that's it.
But I think as well, if you're doing something like that, it's best to kind of prepare yourself. Well, certainly prepare the bike. Get the bike sort of looked over, get it cleaned, possibly put a new chain, new tyres if necessary. You kind of going into something like that, and you've say been using the bike for 3 or 4 years and done nothing with it. You're asking for trouble.
Oh yeah.
So I think in that respect, I think
is that really happen? I think like anyone who is this much into cycling to take on challenge like that. These are the guys who are kind of, sleeping with their bike, and it's like massaging it every day, and cleaning, and everything is clean and well oiled, and so on.
Bringing it into the hotel room with them at night.
Exactly. You're not expect somebody on the old Shelly bike.
Well, there's there's that risk as well that kind of leaving it outside.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, if your bike was nicked, that's the end of the story for you.
Exactly.
If you're finishing a little bit early. Yeah.
So if any one of our listeners would like to do the challenge like that, mail into Meason. So number one, know your route, right? Get any GPS tool or Strava or Garmin or whatever.
Yeah. Google, Google Maps is pretty good.
Google Maps. Yeah, actually, I should say Google Maps, because all those platforms are using Google Maps. Only they're overlaying kind of tools that you might not have otherwise. And say, okay, these routes are most often, and so on. So that's the number one.
Okay, on Google Maps, you can literally, there's like a route finder you can put in, and there's also a little tab you can click for a bicycle.
Yeah.
And you can put in Malin Head, Mizzen Head, and straight away the route will come up. Yeah. And you can pull and drag it to wherever route will suit you, and and it gives you a fully detailed explanation of exactly where you're going to and what you've got to do.
Yeah, you can even watch it. You can do the street view and actually see where you're going to be cycling.
Drag the little man, and
exactly,
which does come in handy in parts. Because I've used it before to find out exactly where shops are or hotels, that type of thing. Right. So
that's number one. Get your route and put it on your Garmin or whatever you're using. So that's number one. Number two, book your stay overnight.
Book your accommodation. Like that. I suppose you could sort of fly a little bit by the seat of your pants and kind of take a chance on bed and breakfast, that type of thing. Right. I suppose it depends on the sort of person. Other people might. Say fancy bringing a tent or something like that. It's another option.
Oh yeah.
But really, I suppose if you've got a support car and that type of thing, you probably
you can do it. I know you mean you can do it on this sort of like a touring bikes, where you have all the bags and everything, and
panniers,
you put all the stuff there, and you can do it that way.
And that gives you a lot more, a lot more options.
Have you cycled this type of bike?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's much heavier.
Yeah, I kind of did it in the late 80s in Scandinavia. I went sort of cycle tour in there for about 3 months on my own.
Oh, please tell us about it.
From when I finished living in London, I thought, right, I've had enough of that place. Let's go somewhere a complete contrast. So I used to be very big into soccer, association football, and at the time the English teams were banned from they were banned from playing in Europe, but they could play friendly games, but without telling the supporters.
Oh.
So they didn't want any supporters going over. I had a friend who knew the goalkeeper of Charlton Athletic, who I was kind of following at the time in London. So he got me the list of the friendly games. So I thought, right, I'll go over to Scandinavia and I'll kind of include in my route some of these games.
Right.
So I kind of went up to Newcastle. You could get a ferry over to a place called Esbjerg in Denmark, and kind of cycled across Denmark then and into Sweden.
Okay.
So like that, I had all the panniers, a sleeping bag.
Unreal.
A kind of camping stove, tent. Yeah, so it was quite heavy. It wasn't and for myself, I wasn't really that much into cycling. So I was kind of going into it a little bit wet behind the ears, not cycled a bike that heavy before.
Yes.
So, that actually kind of took a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
So that's mainly what I was doing. I was stopping off in campsites there in Denmark and Sweden, and I was kind of working my way up the coast then from, I think it was, say, from around Malmo, going up towards Gothenburg.
Okay.
So, I think I watched the game there in a place in Halmstad, and there's another game in a place called Klippen.
Right.
And then kind of the tour had finished then, so I kind of made my way across to Stockholm.
Right.
So I remember staying in one of the places there, Jönköping. Not all cycling. I did cheat once or twice. I had enough of this. Banged the bike on the train, and which is okay as well.
Yeah.
But then a few days then in Stockholm, I had a friend in Helsinki, so went over to Finland. Kind of did a little bit of cycling there, did a bit of a loop, and we actually as well booked a trip to Moscow from Helsinki.
Oh,
now back then it was the Soviet Union, so you weren't allowed, certainly weren't allowed to cycle in there. But I did actually inquire, and they kind of said,
no,
they laughed at me. He said, this doesn't happen. You don't go. So the only way of getting there was by train.
Right.
So we took a nice kind of train trip there.
Why you couldn't cycle? Was it?
Well, it was this was kind of the time of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Or it was just coming to the end of it, and it was kind of hard work to actually get into any of those Eastern Bloc countries back then. Like East Germany, Poland. The Soviet Union.
Yeah.
You needed visas, and especially for the Soviet Union.
Yeah, but you had all that when you're going by train. You had to get all that.
Yeah, but what happened was that you got to Helsinki, you booked the trip, you had to give them the passport, and they check your passport out for about 2 weeks before they kind of give you the thumbs up.
Oh,
so
okay.
So basically what happened was then you got your train ticket, your hotel, everything all in one.
Okay,
so they knew exactly. So they said, right, your train goes at this time. You get to Moscow at this time. You stay in this hotel. You leave at this time.
Well, when you were cycling, you were suspicious, right? You could steal all the secrets.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. No, they were just, I suppose they were just a little bit overcautious. I don't know what the reasoning was. But, so... back to the cycling then, did a little bit of cycling there around Finland, kind of waiting for the visas and everything to come through. Okay. And
also on this touring bike.
Yeah, on the touring bikes. So kind of think I went up to Tampere, I think, which is sort of in the middle of Finland, and come around. I remember staying in some place, absolutely fabulous name called Uusi Kaupunki.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's what a great name. It actually means new town in Finnish.
Okay.
Uusi Kaupunki. So so I had 1 or 2 weeks of touring sort of around there, and then after that, then I kind of made my way sort of back to the UK. But mainly, I was kind of all cycled out, and it was getting into September. It's starting to get cold. And
how long it took that whole round trip?
It's about 3 months.
3 months.
Man,
that's amazing.
Amazing. So it was. I remember, once or twice I'd be staying on camping sites and nearly being the only one on it. Especially in Finland. Yeah. In early September, that some of the camping sites were closed.
Yeah.
So it was kind of quite eerie.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
this bike is pretty much like a racing bike, except it's much heavier. It's but the kind of geometry is a little bit more relaxed, but it's still you have the
it'd be
like with the bars with the drop handlebars,
and there'd be like a kind of a frame at the back, and which you can put your panniers on, that type of thing. Now if you want, you can buy front panniers as well, and frames for the front, and Also, there's kind of different bags you can get, where you can put them actually onto the frame of the bike. They'll kind of.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
I had no idea what that is.
So I think at the time the actual bike I had for doing that was it was called a Peugeot. I bought it in London. So same. I think it's probably the same manufacturers as the Peugeot car.
I think
Peugeot
so.
bicycle. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was.
You took your Peugeot and you just cycled around Europe. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it was good fun.
Good.
Nice eye opener that.
Have you done any other like amazing adventure like that?
I was, with the football kind of thing, I was doing what you call, the Champions League, following from a team in the very first round right the way through to the final. And that year I was kind of following Celtic. This was in 1988, and remember the first round they drew Honved from Budapest in Hungary. So I went to both of them games. That in the second round, then they played Werder Bremen,
right,
which is in like the north of Germany. So I kind of had this idea that I'd kind of cycle from London to Bremen,
right,
but. Again, it's kind of totally unprepared. This, it's kind of October. I kind of had the.
I see you prefer those cold months.
Yeah. Well, it's just it's one of them ignorance is bliss type of thing, So I thought, just jump on the bike, get some panniers, sleeping bag, a few clothes, and cycle up to Bremen. And I had an idea that. Just follow the coast. Because if you do follow the coast, it will take you right up to North Holland, across to Friesland, and pretty well drop you off in Bremen. So like that, the bike was fully loaded up. The ferry dropped me off in Hooker, Holland, and I must have been cycling about 4 or 5 kilometres, and the wind was just absolutely hammering against me. And I thought, oh no, to be plan B. I had to come inland, and oh god, it just the whole thing just went skew with. I remember I was all day cycling. I must have cycled probably only about 50 or 60 kilometres or something. Just about a full day at it. I was just getting lost and going all over the place. Never forget it. I found this B&B in Amersfoort, I think, and I got in there, say about 4 or 5 o'clock. I just lay down on the bed. Next thing you knew, it was 7 o'clock the next morning. I've never had a sleep like it. Yeah. So I cycled the next day, and I'd say I wasn't that far from the German border. I thought, I've had enough of it. It was kind of too hard, and as well, the bike I had, it wasn't fully prepared. Like I was saying earlier, if you're doing Malin-to-Mizzen or a big cycle like that, make sure you look after the bike, check tyres, and I did none of that. So,
all right. How old are you then?
Huh?
How old were you then?
When I did that, I'd have been probably around 23, 24.
All right, so you
like
just didn't give a crap. I'm just going to take a bike. Just gonna go.
Plus,
you were not overthinking.
Plus as well, the second day, it probably wasn't a good idea to check into a bar and sleep upstairs in the bar. So I wasn't in the best of states, and the next morning as well to be cycling into Germany. So. And then as well, it was an oldish bike, so if I remember rightly, I think the back wheel started buckling.
Oh god!
So I kind of took the train to Enschede on the border, and I just dropped it in one of the many kind of in the railway station. You can put the bike in, and there'll be mechanics in there. So I said, just do something with that wheel. I'll see you in about 3 or 4 days. I'll be back.
And was it like you were really like into cycling then? It was like the cycling was the thing, or was it just like this is the way I'm doing, and you didn't pay too much attention?
No,
but cycling.
back then I was football was the the thing. Football was the
so bike was just
the way of life,
transport.
and it was I thought it'd be this could be an original way of getting to a football match.
Get it.
So
Get it.
I probably did about 25% of the route.
Right.
It's a lesson for everyone. Be prepared.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Listen, are you cycling like every day? Like you're one of these guys who are using bicycle instead of a car every day.
I do. Yeah. I.
But you own a car, or you just say
no. I actually got rid of the car there about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you 100% bicycle everywhere.
More or less. Now, sometimes when I do need a car or something, I'll hire one or something like that. Yeah. But kind of where I'm working at the moment is only about 5 kilometers away, so. I'd cycle back. For shopping, we kind of bought a trailer, a bike trailer. So
that's fantastic.
We'd cycle. The shop's only about 2 kilometers away. So
I was talking not long ago about benefits of the outdoors and kind of connecting with nature and kind of getting more relaxed and getting away from the this very fast kind of way of life, fast this and that, and it must be kind of like that when you decide to use bicycle as your main means of transport, because then you straight away removing the fact that, I need to fast get somewhere. You're not gonna in a car standard, at least you're not getting fast anywhere. You just need to take your time because it's for a distance, and you kind of, do you feel like that kind of relaxes you and makes kind of a little bit more connected with like I said, nature, because you're kind of using your own body and your own muscles to get everywhere on the bike, and it's not that fast, and you need to kind of plan that up front, and you need to plan more, so everything is just slower and more relaxed thanks to that. Do you think so?
Say that's a fair comment. I think that when you're cycling everywhere, it's I suppose the disadvantage of it is that you can't carry too much with you, unless you take the trailer. Really, I'd only use that trailer for shopping. It can be a bit cumbersome. It's not something I'd like to cycle to, say, Killarney or Dingle with or something like that. And then it's about setting your stall out differently. Just the timing. Knowing that things are going to take too long. Now, I've probably not been put to the test really. Say for example, if you were to get a job in, I don't know, Killarney or somewhere like that, then you could start asking yourself questions. Am I prepared to cycle every day? That there are people that do, cycle that sort of distance and further, but especially like say for example last year, some of the days we had. There's absolutely no way you could go out on a bike.
With the wind and
the wind and
rain and all
that.
Or a
bit of snow.
Yeah, snow as well. Unless you get a fat bike.
Then it'd probably take you about 4 hours.
That's
You're leaving about 3 or 4 in the morning to get to work.
That's another thing.
But so I think certainly it's I think for anyone, if they're living 5 kilometers or so from work, it's something to think about.
They should try. They should try.
But really for me, like I say, I had this car, and the insurance bill come in, and it doubled. It went from something like 400 to 800 euros, and for no apparent reason. And like that, I just said, I'm not playing. Scrap the car.
Exactly.
And that was it. And
exactly.
No,
I think it's great. More people should try that. More people should try that. Because it's the health benefits and the financial benefits and everything. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's I think something like that, it needs to kind of reach a tipping point, where people have. I think at the moment, you've probably got a lot of people who, perhaps won't do it, and you can see it with kids going to school. They say it's too dangerous. So for example, you might have someone say, I'd love my child to cycle to school, but there's too much traffic.
Mm-hmm.
How's the child going to get to school? Well, I'll have to drive him. So inadvertently, you're kind of contributing to the problem as to why.
Yeah, you can get your kids cycle to school.
So you can't cycle because there's too much traffic. So I'll drive
and create more traffic.
Yeah, so there has to be that that kind of change in mindset.
This is something. This is a conversation that I had recently with many people about this thing of driving kids to school. Like it's becoming insane, because I was told, about the girl who lives like 300 meters from school, and she's being driven by mom, and she's like 15, and she's being driven to and from school every day. I mean, like, it takes longer to actually get into the car and find a parking and then just walk. Like, what's up with that? Yeah. That's some sort of craziness. Yeah. And another comment I like to make that is, it's all good saying, I just feel like most of people, if not all of them, who are into outdoors, into like, fishing, cycling, whatever that podcast is about, I got a feeling, and maybe I'm wrong, but I got a feeling like more down to earth, more grounded, more connected. It's like, oh, right, cycling, it makes sense. I got the benefits, health benefits. I pay less. It's good. But there's a lot of people who are, using car as a symbol of status, right? The neighbors are watching. Like, how is it going to look like? My neighbor's going to be watching me on the bike, right? I got to have this, big car to actually so I think that plays element as well.
Perhaps there is a bit of that with with certain people, but I think certainly from my own perspective, you got to try not to think of that. Don't give don't really give a damn what people sort of think. People will think whatever they want about you, regardless. So, if you've got the best car, or
absolutely, they don't like you because you have a car better than them or something, right? Yeah. There's absolutely, and I think the more and more people are getting into cycling and kind of using bicycle as a means of transport rather than the car. So one more thing I'd like to ask you about that: is it not more convenient to use backpack rather than trailer when you're going for shopping or something? Oh, surely you can put less into the backpack, but I mean, is it not more handy?
When you're doing the kind of the weekly shop for there's 4 of us in the family.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'd be kind of taking.
Everybody takes their own backpack.
Yeah. Well, I'd take the the reusable bags.
Yeah.
And
very good.
You just for 4 people, you're doing the weekly shop. It nearly what we use, and it nearly fill a boot of a car.
Yes.
So it's
so you have a trailer.
It's too heavy.
Boot of a car.
It's too heavy.
Yeah.
And like that, that trailer. What did it cost? I think I've had it for 2.5 years now. It's paid for itself. About €200 or something. Bought it online.
And how it attaches to the bike?
You
need to have a special, attachment on the bike itself as well. Right?
There's a little, there's kind of a little bracket that sort of goes, through the skewer.
Okay.
So the side of the wheel.
Through the skewer.
Yeah. So basically, it kind of come out like sort of a short roundy kind of thing. And you'd kind of push the bar of the trailer in, and the pin goes through.
Oh,
you'd line a hole. You'd line up a hole push a pin through. And then there's like a safety strap as well, which goes around the.
But so you put this bracket through the skewer of the bike first,
at the back wheel.
In the back wheel, and this is the first part of it, and then you're attaching trailer to that.
So basically, you just take the, like when you're removing, say if you have a punch, you're removing the back wheel, the skewer that goes through. You just take that out completely, push this steel bracket on, and then that's what connects the bike with the trailer. So you can have the thing off and on in less than a minute. It's literally it's just a pin that kind of goes through it.
So there's no
problem. With with a kind of a spring clip then, so it doesn't pop out. And it's kind of convenient because you can take your shopping right to the back door.
Yeah, exactly. So people
instead of carting it.
If you still think about it, and shopping is you see, you can get a trailer. Listen, you just came back from Mallorca. Tell us about it. How awesome! How awesome! Did you guys cycle Sacalobra? That's fun. That's probably one of the best cycling and driving routes in the world.
Yeah, we did that Tuesday week.
Right.
That was
you just back. You just came back a few days ago.
We come back last Sunday.
Right. And that was also Chain Gang Club.
Yeah. There was
club cycle.
There was 40. It was about 46 of us went. So we.
But you didn't cycle the whole group, or was it like a whole 46 people group each day?
There was 2 non-cyclists and about 44 cyclists.
Right.
We went out and stayed in Alcudia. Port Alcudia in Mallorca. We cycled with a group called Sport Active.
Okay.
So basically we kind of flew out there, and they sort of arranged everything for us. The hotel, hire bikes. So these were kind of pretty good.
Oh, so you didn't take your own bike?
No.
Do you think that takes away from the enjoyment that you're not cycling your own bike?
Well, it did for me a little bit, because it took me about 3 or 4 days to get used to the saddle. But for the ones that didn't have any problem, to be fair, you get kind of used to it quite fast.
Okay.
To the bike. So basically, Sport Active there, they provided everything. They provided the guides, the bikes, and these were pretty top of the range bikes, carbon, aluminium, whatever type of bike you were looking for. They split it into, similar to what we do with the Chain Gang. There are 4 groups. So
so that was what I was asking, whether the whole 44 people were cycling at the same time or no. So
pretty much into
whether you took out the whole road with a whole bunch of
no. No, the guy who kind of runs the operation there, Martin, he's he's kind of top end. He's the type of guy, he takes no nonsense, kind of everything's, maximum safety. So, he wouldn't allow that sort of thing to happen.
Sure.
So, but basically, what you had there, Martin, he kind of ran the top group, and, that was pretty much, as close as what you get to, a professional training camp.
Right.
The guys that were going with him, were going pretty much flat out, doing, pretty long cycles, at kind of, highest speeds, probably averaging some in the region of 30 kilometers an hour, for the day,
And
and then it, it gradually come down. There's another group then, so probably was averaging, say, 26, 27 kilometers, another one around 24, 25, and then a more of a relaxed group then. We're doing something a bit shorter and, averaging 22, 23.
I wonder which one is better, whether it's, take it easy and just cycle and enjoy the views, or whether it's like you're going hardcore, training, it depends. Probably one day this, one day something else,
that's exactly what I did. I ended up cycling with 3 different groups.
Okay.
So, I kind of, took in a little bit of everything. And, from my own perspective, that was that was my holiday. So I was thinking, I'm not gonna nearly kill myself. And, be absolutely hammering it for the 5 days or whatever we're going to be cycling there. It's nice just to, go with a more relaxed group. You can get your head up, look round, and the stops are a bit more kind of sedate, and there's not too much pressure on anybody to do anything. So
just enjoy the view.
So it's a really, overall it was a very well organised. It was a nice experience. The hotel we stayed in was quite central. The food there was probably one of the best spreads of food I've ever seen. It was kind of like buffet style. So there was unbelievable amount of food. You just keep going back if you want.
You need to recuperate. You need to get back all the calories that you burned.
It's the first time I've kind of gone cycling for a week and done over 400 kilometers and come back weighing more, like.
Very good. That's a proper holiday.
It was good fun, and there was plenty of swimming pools there, and also there. I remember last Saturday there was one of the biggest triathlons in Europe going on there as well. In Alcudia there was about 3,000 to 4,000 participants come. So
huge.
That was kind of something to behold in itself. Like just walking past actually where the bikes were. Where they keep the bikes for the second section after the swim. Absolutely massive. Huge area.
Yeah. How do you even find your bike when you're changing after a swim?
Well, I actually there's a couple of people that do triathlons that were with us, and I actually asked that question to one. I said, "What happens if someone takes your bike? What do you do?" And she goes, "That doesn't happen. That never happens."
Like we said, like in Holland, right? You take the first one that's there.
First out the water takes the best bike.
Yeah, exactly. As an added incentive to be fast.
But I'm told it never happens. So I'm sure it has happened, but I'd say it's kind of rare.
Yeah.
So but the actual setup there, they were putting this thing together for close on a week.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing. So So
what was the weather like? Was it not too hot? What was the temperature?
Temperature was probably ideal. It was average about 21 degrees.
Okay.
So it wasn't. It was just nice. It's not overly warm.
It wasn't tiring, the temperature.
No, it didn't really think. No, one or 2 days I'd say you're in certain areas and it kind of it felt a bit warmer. There was I think the last day we were kind of cycling up to Cap de Fermenta. It's a lighthouse, and that was at times that was quite warm. Yeah. But you're kind of cycling a little bit in the mountains, so there wouldn't be, at times there wasn't much breeze.
Yeah.
So the sun would be beating down on you. But I think basically what they do out there is that we were the last group that were there. They stop it then because you're starting to get into the height of the tourist season. The temperatures are too high. And so, basically what Sport Active is, they draw a line under it and then they focus on taking people out in the Alps. They move to Switzerland and France, and that's the.
Is it not also that Mallorca becomes then very busy? Was it busy at the time where you guys were
it's busy
right
enough.
now?
Yeah, it's busy enough. There was, I'd say after Holland, there was a huge amount of cyclists there.
Right.
I've never seen too many, and.
Was it to the point that it was uncomfortable, and where you ever had a moment you said next time I come in a different time of the year where there's less people?
There was kind of one or two times there where you were being overtaken by a group, and there'd be cars coming the other way. There wouldn't be much play in between. So there's. The odd chance like that being taken there by some groups. I wouldn't quite sort of describe it as being uncomfortable. Just I suppose like on any kind of cycle that you do, there's has its moments.
Yes.
But overall the the cyclists and the motorists were quite accommodating.
Yeah.
And so it's it's a nice place to go and cycle.
So the good time of the year, because I remember I watched I think the video, and there was a footage from Mallorca, and it was like look, at that time of the year it's so busy, don't even bother, and then pictures of bikes and cars everywhere. And I look at it, it's like, oh no, it probably doesn't look good. It was like, it's better to go like a early spring or in the autumn where most people
I think that I think they get some of the professional teams would be kind of working out over there. That they might have been there a bit earlier than us, maybe in March or April, something like that. The likes of Sky and
so like a big time professional.
Yeah. So there'd be a lot of a lot of the professionals will be going over there doing it, but.
Why? Because of the terrain? Because what's so special? Because it's just beautiful and great infrastructure, and they can.
I'm kind of assuming that it's probably there's a lot to do. There's a good mix of terrain there. There's it's quite mountainy in parts. The road surfaces are very good. I think that the road surface would probably give you an extra say 2 or 3 kilometers per hour. Speed than say what you would have in this country. It's just a nice kind of smooth tarmac. They do have potholes over there, but they're kind of few and far between. And basically the sort of routes that they did it, it's kind of it was a mix. We'd be going down a lot of back roads, side roads, then onto faster say secondary roads. Not that often on real main roads, only when we had to. But it's there's a nice mix going on. Lots of back roads. A few times we're in the mountains, that type of thing.
So the sea, the mountains, the whole deal.
Yeah, the seaside as well. We did 1 or 2 cycles there, kind of. Close to the sea, so it's a bit of everything, and probably on average the sort of distance we were doing was probably around 80 kilometers a day.
Okay, so it's reasonable. It's
if you're not used to it, it's intensive enough. Some of the guys
because of the climbing.
Yeah, but if you were at the top end, speaking to some of the guys that have been before, that they say, after a week you've just about had enough of it. You say, all right, that's it. It's nice to give the bike a break now for a few days, that type of thing.
Sure.
And and there was 1 or 2 in the group. That after, I think we had a break after 3 days. We did a really kind of tough long day. I think it was on the second day, on the Tuesday. Where we did the Sacalabra.
Right.
And actually getting to that, you've got to do a kind of a steady climb, about 9 kilometers, and it drops down, and you go back up again, and you drop down the actual Sacalabra to the bottom. Yeah. And you got to climb back out of it again, which is, I think it's 9 kilometers of a climb. Yeah, I think someone told me it was about 3 times the height of the Connor Pass or something like that. Yeah. So
very tough.
That's an intensive. That was an intensive day in itself. So. If I remember rightly, we did about 120 kilometers, and we were probably out from around 9 o'clock to, 6:30, 7 o'clock that day. So you'd be getting back, and you'd be pretty tired after it. Yeah. So we deserved our day off after
big
it.
Day.
Right,
Yeah. And do you think it's better to go with a guide, with some company that organizes this, or? You can pretty much get a ticket and just go on yourself and cycle with.
After going, I would I'd definitely say you get the most out of it by going with a guide.
Oh,
definitely,
really?
Yeah, because
why is that?
It's the stuff that's going on there, the road network and that, it's quite elaborate. It's quite maze-like, and I think if you didn't know it, there'd be a tendency to stick to the main roads, and you probably miss quite a lot.
Oh,
so,
right.
The guides, they knew that particular area, the island, like the back of the hand. They could tell you where any road went to.
Right.
They took you to some,
and they were cycling with. So obviously, they were cycling with you.
Yeah, that's their job, like.
Okay.
So
I thought they're just gonna leave you there. It's like, hey, go ahead and cycle. They can go this route, and then so they were actually cycling with you.
Yeah. And like I said, at the top end there, the guy Martin, he was, pretty much, like a kind of a coach. He carried a whistle, and when he blew the whistle, they had to move in sequence, on the chain, move it around. So it was real. The guys that were, in the fastest group, it was real kind of full on.
Was it not taking out from the enjoyment, or was it not?
That's what they wanted to do.
So there was only for that fastest group.
It was it's for anybody.
I thought that was every group. Like
no. Once the top group, it was like that. But the other groups, it was just
got it.
The guides kind of looked after us, very well, and they'd be, minding people if they were kind of tired, or they'd drop back, like on any climb, there's a fast person, there's a slow person, so they drop back, and
or is the fast person with a bad day because he was too fast the day before?
Exactly, yeah. So the guides were great. They kind of looked after. They looked after everybody. Made sure they got up the climbs okay, and they give us kind of plenty of breaks, and there's never any arguments, as to, if you wanted to spend 2 hours having a lunch break, then fine.
That's great. Listen, Dave, you're an amazing person. You've done amazing stuff, and actually, you have a book out that everybody can go ahead and buy a book. And it's out for quite a while. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, Cycling Kerry, great road routes. Myself and Donnacha Clifford,
who was a guest on that podcast as well.
About a year ago, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. So we have run the website Kerry Cycling, and it must be. The book actually come out there about a year ago. We were kind of invited to sort of write it there from Collins Press about sort of 2.5 years ago. So we kind of got to work on that. The
website is kerrycycling.com, or is it .ie?
.com.
Kerrycycling.com.
And there's we've sort of covered Kerry in this book as best we could. We've given a good kind of perspective of it, from the I think there's about 30 routes or so in the book,
with detailed description, beautiful photos.
North Kerry, South Kerry, West Kerry. There'd be photos, there'd be maps, sort of information on all the the different kind of climbs. And
I think it's a beautiful book. It's beautifully put together, but also the whole host of knowledge and information, because you guys not only going, I think it strikes right balance between being like a cycling routes and here's the road and you go here and there, but also while you cycling, these are the points that are worth noting, and you look here and this is something that is worth stopping and taking photo or kind of checking, but at the same time it not goes overboard with that side of it. So I think it strikes the right balance.
There's a if you kind of dig a little bit below the surface, there's a lot going on in Kerry. There's a nice kind of there's a nice history. There's some kind of extraordinary monuments and kind of stories to be told, and when you're kind of cycling these routes, a lot of those kind of monuments or whatever would be within the vicinity. So that's what we tried to do was to kind of encapsulate what was actually going on in the area. It's not a kind of it's not the sort of book where you get your head down and try and do it as quick as you can. It's it's a sort of a book where you do the route and you take your time, and it's if you want to stop and look at this, then great. Yeah. And I suppose that was kind of mainly partly on our mind as well, is that it gives the information, good routes, but it might appeal to people who perhaps aren't into cycling as well, who are just they like Ireland or they like Kerry, so it gives a nice bit of information, nice photographs, that type of thing.
Exactly. And I think, as I cycled a lot of these routes, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them. And I learned new stuff and kind of it helped me to look at the new way. But like you said, I can imagine somebody saying like, I'm going to visit Kerry and that might be actually a good idea. To our earlier point, instead of renting a car, I'm going to rent a bike and go around and just using that book. So that's it.
And like Kerry, it's big enough, but it's not that big. And like that, you could base yourself there in Killarney or Tralee, and a lot of the routes kind of pass through or close by, and like that, you say there are places in Tralee, Killarney, where you can hire a bike, and perhaps you might want to do one of these routes. We had good fun putting the routes together. Personally, I think there's some excellent routes in there. And for anyone, get out and have a go at them. There is actually I've come across a handful of people that are actually working their way through the book. Cycling some of the routes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
that's me.
Taking them off.
That's me. Very good. So where our listeners can buy the book?
They can either buy it online, sort of through our website.
Okay, through kerrycycling.com.
Or they can buy it at the local bookshops. Most of the local bookshops would stock it, and also it's available in Tralee Library as well.
Right.
So,
but I guess like for non-local listeners who would like to come to Kerry perhaps and try cycling, kerrycycling.com is a place to go. And purchase. Off the website. There's
actually a link to on that to the we've kind of set up a website for the book.
Right.
So you can. So on Kerry Cycling, you can.
So what's the website for the book?
Actually forget the name of the exact name of the website for the book,
but from kerrycycling.com,
but like that you can you can log on to Kerry Cycling. You can get a link into the book website, and then like that you can order the book. Actually, our last order was from Brazil, believe it or not.
Exactly, I believe it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. On that platform, hopefully people are from around the world can listen to that and get the book. Listen, any concluding thoughts for our listeners?
As regarding what the book or
in general, just in general.
In general, I'd say the weather, it's getting nice. Get out on your bike, go and enjoy the outdoors.
Absolutely, I can't agree more.
And I say, don't judge yourself, put yourself under pressure. Just if it's a 10-kilometer cycle, go and do it. If it's a 100-mile cycle,
just have fun. Have fun. Ride your frigging bike,
fun.
People.
The sun's shining.
Exactly.
Go and do your bit.
Listen, Dave, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure having you on that. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, pleasure, Tommy.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. And that was another episode of Tommy's Outdoors Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and now go ahead and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other good podcasting platform. Leave the review and rate us. Also, follow us on Twitter at Outdoors Podcast and on Instagram at Tommy's Outdoors. And that's all, folks. See you next time. Bye.